Hi friends, this is Dr. Abdequaem Chimthanawala. Today let us discuss a very important remedy you might have given many times in your practice. A very important remedy for fever, especially in this weather. Weather is rains and people get wet in the rain, and whenever a person gets wet in the rain, we normally, most of us think of the first remedy, that is rust toxicodendron. So let us today discuss some of the very important features of rust toxicodendron in fever and when to prescribe rust tox. First of all, as you all know, that exposure to rains. Whenever there is exposure to rains, whenever there is raining and you get wet in the rain, whenever there is exposure to rain, the first remedy that should come to your mind and that should come to everybody's mind is definitely rust toxicodendron. But exposure to rain, if rust tox is indicated, it must have some symptoms of rust tox, but because there is a very important remedy very close to rust tox, and that is natrum sulph. Both remedies have the same symptom, exposure after rains or during rains. There are other remedies which are very close to rust tox and natrum sulph, and those are important remedy called as calcarea carb, dulcamara, ferrum metallicum, and arenia diaderna. These remedy also have the same symptoms, exposure to rains or exposure during rains, and these remedies, rust tox, natrum sulph, most important remedies. Of course, we have calcarea carb, we have the ferrums, arenia. These dulcamara, these remedies are also indicated for exposure to rain. So don't be so prejudiced कि rains भीग गया पानी में रस्ट टॉक्स दे दो, बहुत रेमेडीज है उसके लिए. या फिर अभी आप ऐसे बोला जाता है कि जब भी आप पानी में काम करते हैं, व्हेन द चिल्स बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सपोजर और वर्किंग इन वाटर, अगर आप पानी में काम कर रहे हैं, फिर बोलता है ना, कब कभी ठंड सामान लगता है और पानी में काम करे, फिर भी वी थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स रस्ट टॉक्स. बट a very important remedy, I would say one step ahead than rust tox also, is calcarea carb. That is, it's a beautiful symptom written in mathematics, that is chills from exposure or after working in water. जब भी आप बहुत पानी में काम करते हैं, whenever you are working in water, there is chills feeling, think of calcarea carb. Very important remedy. Or exposure after standing in water. See the symptom similarity, but see the symptoms, how the patient will comment. देखिए पेशेंट आपके सामने है कि कैसा सिम्टम बोलते हैं. एक्सपोजर, चिल्स फ्रॉम एक्सपोजर आफ्टर स्टैंडिंग इन वाटर. उसके अंदर भी द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट रेमेडी इज रस्ट टॉक्स एंड calcarea carb. Of course, we have rare remedies like Macphos and Ledampar also, but these two remedies are very important. See how the patient tells the symptoms. Chills for exposure after standing in water, or you can say chills exposure after स्लीपिंग इन अ डैम्प रूम. मतलब रूम चार देखते हैं कि चारों जगह से बंद है, वहां धूप नहीं आ रही, थोड़ी जमीन में नमी है, dampness, it is a lot of dampness is there, and then also the first remedy that you think about is rust tox. But my dear friends, very close to that is also natrum sulph, calcarea carb, and arsenic. So see how rust tox, natrum sulph, calcarea carb are so close, and whenever water comes in the patient, either standing in water or working in water or getting wet in water, we normally think about rust tox. But now इसके बाद आप जरूर सोचिए ये 3-4 रेमेडी के बारे में, because these remedies are also very important in treating conditions which are due to exposure to water, standing in water, getting wet in rain, or working in water. One symptom that is also important, that the patient comes to you that डॉक्टर साहब इतनी गर्मी है, there is so in Nagpur it is so hot that he has bathing with cold water in the day for 4-5 times. Whenever he comes home, he has a cold shower, and that also is a very important symptoms of, my dear friend, rust tox. That is exposure after cold bathing, exposure after too frequent cold bathing. बहुत बार नहाता है पेशेंट ठंडे पानी से. In that also you have to think about rust tox, and a very close remedy to rust tox is again calcarea carb. So see, my dear friends, rust tox, calcarea carb कितने close है. Don't always think that chronic of belladonna is calcarea carb. We think in that terms, but in these cases also, with this exposure after bathing with cold water frequently, it is rust tox, calcarea carb, and very important remedy, and that is tarantula hispana is also there. Of course, we have antim crude also. So ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सिम्टम है. हम कुछ जानना है पहले कि किस प्रकार से ठंड लग सकती है रस्ट टॉक्स पेशेंट को. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू फ्यू ऑफ द एक्सपोजर एलिमेंट्स फ्रॉम और चिल्स बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सपोजर टू वाटर, एंड डिफरेंट टाइप्स, कोल्ड बाथिंग, स्टैंडिंग, working, getting wet in rain. And one thing also is important, exposure after being overheated. Exposure, chills after exposure when overheated. बहुत ठंड से तुरंत बहुत गर्मी में चले गया, बहुत बहुत डिफरेंस ओवरहीटेड हो गया, then also the most important remedy is again rustox, and just next to rustox is calcarea, carp and clematis. So my dear friends, see the closeness of the remedy of rustox, calcarea, natrum sulph, arsenic, vidalcamara, so close. So whenever you are prescribing for symptoms of getting wet in rain, do think these 3-4 remedies should come in your mind. Of course, then you must know something very important or peculiar to rustox, which we'll see in this video, that when you have to think about rustox and when rustox is indicated. Now, whenever there is chills on part of the back, patient से मुझे से पीठ मुझे back से थोड़ी कपकपी लगती है, ठंड लगती है, then it is a chill of rustox. That is very important. So rustox, ignitia and cocculus. Of course, calcarea carp is also there. That is an important symptom of rustox. One more symptom in rustox is that the chill of rustox generally begins on the right side of the body. That is very important of rustox. Ask the patient the starting point of chill, the back, the face, the throat, the chest, the sides. Then rustox is right side. So this is also very important, that rustox chills begin on the right side of the body. Also, you can think about bryonia also. Again, as you go further, you have to understand when rustox has to be given in process of eating. A very important symptom of rustox, is that the chills are better by eating. जब भी पेशेंट को थोड़ी कपकपी, थोड़ी ठंड लगती है, the chills are ameliorated after eating. This is again a very, very important symptom of rustox. Very close to this symptom remedy should be ambragracia, iodum and phosphorus also, which I have seen, which gives us very, very good results. Again, as you go further and you think about rustox, you have to think whether the chills, menses during, constant chill. जब भी पेशेंट बोलते जब भी मुझे पीरियड्स आते हैं मुझे ठंड लगती है, chills, menses, it is a constant chill during menses. That is very important of rustox. And with rustox you have to think about creosote and cyclamen. That is also a very, very important remedy in chills. Now you can have shaking chills, you have chills with the rigor, but the most important chill of rustox is shaking, shivering, rigor, and the face of the rustox will guide you to rustox. The face of the rustox is very livid, livid, livid face, and that is rustox. If you go further, it is said that the shivering, the shaking, the chills is so severe that the skin is cold and blue. The skin becomes cold and blue, and with rustox, my dear friends, a very, very important remedy, very close to rustox is camphora and of course sickle core. So this is important, and in rustox, chills, shivering, shaking, rigors in the upper part of the body, upper part. That is also important in rustox. And in rustox, whenever there's chills or rigors, there's shaking chills, more when the patient is going into a warm room. अगर आप एसी के रूम से अपने बाहर लिविंग रूम में जा रहे हैं और आपको थोड़ी ठंड लगती है, कपकपी लगती है, then you must think about rustox. These are a very, very important symptom to identify the chills of rustox. As you go further and you think of rustox, you must think of rustox when it is said that anterior part, the fever comes in the anterior part of the body. That is also one of the symptoms which I have seen in cases of rustox. Now, rustox is given in all types of fever, whether it's typhoid fever, whether it is what you call quarantine fever, or you can eruptive fevers. These also rustox. In fact, low fevers also rustox. In rustox can also be given when there is intense heat, like the temperature is 39 to 40 degrees Celsius during sleep. That is also rustox. It is also given in Mediterranean fever, or you can say milk fever, every remittent fever. All types of fevers are covered in rustox. These symptoms are important. One symptom of rustox that you should never forget, that is about perspiration. Whenever there is fever, perspiration ameliorates the fever. And this is a very, very important symptom of two more remedies you must have guessed it. That is arsenic album and Lycopodium clevatum. That is, perspiration ameliorates the fever. And of course, in Rustox, it is related to stools also. It is important, that is fever after stools or fever during stools. Of course, there may be other remedies also, but this is also important in Rustox. One symptom that comes to my mind of Rustox fever that you should remember is fever washing aggravates. Washing aggravates. Now, जब भी fever आया and the patient goes for a bath or sponging is done, it aggravates sometimes. Then you must think about ammonium carb, Rustox, sepia, and sulfur. And of course, winter fevers also is Rustox. When the fever comes in winter, the remedy you should also think about Rustox. So these are the very, very important symptoms of Rustox fever. One symptom of fever is when the perspiration is suppressed and you start getting fever. That is a very, very, in fact, 3 marking symptoms of Rustox, that is fever from suppressed perspiration. So my dear friends, this is some symptoms of fever of Rustox that you should remember, because all symptoms are so closely related. The remedies are very so close, like Rustox is there, natrum sulf is there, calcarea carb is there, dulcamara is there, so closely related. That's why we need peculiarity of a particular symptom in the remedy so that we are able to differentiate different remedies. इसलिए मैं दोस्तों इसको पढ़िए अच्छे से घर जाके एक बार, बिकॉज हमको पता होना चाहिए Rustox कब प्रिस्क्राइब करना है. So my dear friends, if you like this video, do share and subscribe. Thank you.